Yeah, I think it's an important thing, and that's where we'll begin this next session here, is if it's true that everything horrible happening on the planet is with great purpose too, then is that just giving excuse to bad behavior? Is that just finding, beauty to horror? Is that just going to perpetuate the horror? And so far, my own personal experience in these recent weeks and months is actually quite the opposite, is that when you actually realize that the victim-perpetrator-saviour triad is the very thing that we get to anchor off of or become the polarity to, then we just develop a different behavior altogether. And that's what we're yearning for, is a radically different behavior. And the reason we're not getting there is that we're not taking responsibility for the perpetrator ultimately. And so we're continue to cast judgment on the victim perpetrator, piece, always trying to be the savior, not realizing that it's actually the savior that perpetuates the energy. Because if there was just a victim and a perpetrator, that'd be done in a single war. But it's because there's always the savior that rushes in to stabilize the situation and try to bring justice, that it gives time for the coin to flip and the perpetrator becomes the victim becomes the perpetrator because the savior was there. So in a very dark way, my savior mentality has been the very thing perpetuating human suffering. And so I think that what could happen is we finally exit out of this collective behavior of victim, savior, perpetrator, if we will bring polarity to it. But I think it's the opposite of bypassing, where it's actually radical ownership. Are we willing to do radical ownership of the perpetrator? And that's what it felt like to be in Israel, Gaza for me, is realizing I am the American in this mix. I'm the one that carries the name Bush into this place. I carry an ancestry of radical colonialism. It's my 40 generations of ancestors that have perpetrated the current, in the name of being the savior, to Gaza or to Israel, which somehow we do on a daily basis in the United States, out of both sides of our mouth. We're pro-Israel. My God, we're all about saving Palestine. We can do that in a single news cycle. In a single 30 minutes, you will hear us say that we're the savior to both. And that's the fucked up thing. That's the real problem. It's not Israel or Gaza. It's that they are both being used and held in a polarity against each other by the Savior, so that the Savior feels vindicated and altruistic and gets all the glory, but most of all gets the wealth. It's my military that's making money off of both sides. It's my military and my government selling arms to both sides of that equation. Amazingly, we just held on the Senate floor finally. Trump is this bizarre phenomenon, right? Like, you'd want to hate the guy, and yet he seems to bizarrely do the right thing in weird moments. And so he seemed to do the bizarre right thing of really putting it on the table to the Senate that they had to vote on ceasing arms sales to Israel. If you're going to sit there and say that you are all about saving Palestine, then how are you possibly approving $200 billion of more arms into Israel? It's like, and he blew the whistle on it, And so bizarrely, the savior is the problem oftentimes, and it's the thing perpetuating things from generation to generation. Or the genocide would be extinction, but the savior is the one that will keep it flipping. Once we take radical ownership of the triad, then we can become the opposite, and that's, I think, our last opportunity here as human species to express our greatest moment, is when we transmute all of that through forgiveness and become the polarity to the whole construct. Then maybe we get the new biology. And that's the promise that's sitting there, is that 4-stranded DNA is happening when the human story is lost. And 12-stranded DNA could happen in a split moment, with forgiveness becoming the primary frequency on the planet. So that all of this is possible, theoretical, and all of you should walk away here doubting everything you heard today, because it's the opposite of everything you've been taught, literally. And so you should go away with this and just check it at your soul level. Check it at your brain level. Think through this thing. And then feel it at your heart. And then go down into your belly and really go into your core where there is no judgment. And sit with this possibility that we're here to suffer so that we can change everything. Spiritual bypassing is, in my book, the belief that suffering is bad, and so we start doing all kinds of things to feel elevated, and then we judge everybody who's not elevated at that moment. And I'm afraid that we're doing this on a very large scale in humanity right now. And so I've finally had to come to terms with the fact that I've got to stop speaking at these events. Calibri Festival, Medicine Festival, no judgment on these festivals. I'm just realizing that I am perpetuating by my own behavior a belief that some of us are enlightened and awake. And in so doing, I'm pretending like I don't have the suffering that I actually came here to transmute. And I don't have the darkness inside of me. Somebody else has that. And so now I can't be part of the solution because I'm a spiritual community. And we can watch this play out over a 400-year period in the United States of America. We literally went to be a spiritual community. It says it all over our documents. Fuck the king and queen. We're Puritans. We're above all of that. We're going to work hard. We're going to create a country of God. And so the Declaration of Independence says, this will be the first nation ruled by the laws of nature. That was Benjamin Franklin. Huge, passionate guy for natural law. He had studied under Confucius from China. That's not mentioned in the U.S. History. Actually, your country's built on the work of Confucius from China. And so he wrote 50 treaties on natural law between 1750 and 1765, and then ultimately is the only elder in the room when the Declaration of Independence gets penned by Thomas Jefferson and the like, all of whom were between the ages of 19 and 25. The only elder in the room in his 60s was Benjamin Franklin. And so he was the one that really was perpetuating this understanding and wisdom of the laws of nature have to govern at the human government level as well. But he couldn't get the damn document signed because there were so many loyalists to the British government in there. And so they had to add "and divine right," or "and divine law" is what actually got put in there. Divine right is the belief that if my God is bigger than your God, or you don't have a God, then God will speak through me and I can do everything I do is justified. And so because we added "and divine law," we were able to justify the genocide of 97 million people that were 600 nations that were in North America before we arrived. My ancestors, my Bush family, arrived in 1617, 10 years after Jamestown, and would watch the genocide of 97% of 100 million people over the next 200 years in the name of being a spiritual community. That's spiritual bypassing on a grand level, And I've been speaking at these ashrams and other places around the world, warning them that I can tell you where you're going to be in 400 years. You will have created the greatest atrocities on the planet in the name of your spiritual community. Your community will become a cult, and then the cult will become a demon of its own right. Because here's my country and what we've done in the name of God. Because we exited natural law in the name of divine law, which not only separated humans from nature, it separated somehow our God from nature. How is divine law separate from natural law? It's written right there in black and white. Natural law and divine law. How can those things be different and in opposition to one another? So it's an important thing that we don't walk out here giving permission to oil companies and chemical companies continue to do the destruction. But I don't think we end the destruction at all through the science that I've been perpetuating for 15 years, showing the damage. It has done bumfuck zero to the behavior of this country and every other. All of the science, all of our time in testifying in front of the EPA has done zero good. In fact, Trump just rolled back all of the pesticide, herbicide regulations, and we are now spraying dicamba all over the country again. I was amazed at how ready the pharmaceutical industry is for action. He signs that into law, within 6 hours there's trucks trucking dicamba back in. They have those stockpiles ready to go. We are so good at war. It is our best machine. And if it's war against biology and weeds, we're going to win the game. It's an important question. We cannot anymore forgive the behavior, and we cannot forgive the behavior if we continue to be permissive to the behavior. But to stop being permissive to behavior, we have to stop being the savior by being more spiritual or more enlightened or more activist. We somehow have to become the polarity to all three, which takes radical and embodies radical forgiveness ultimately. Is that making sense? It's an incredibly important question, and it's one that we should continue to challenge each other on. And I want you guys to hold me radically responsible for my words and my behaviors, because I am just as capable of bypass as anybody else. I want to do something to change the energy of the room, because there was a great question that concluded us off a bit ago around what do we do other than plant medicine to move towards this forgiveness thing. Like, let's pretend we all believe what Zach said in that last 2 hours, because it was actually your heart speaking, not me. So let's believe that we all came to a radical new possibility, that everything we've done to date is perfect, perfectly horrible, and it is destructive, and it has created so much suffering at levels that we can't, in this room, being the privileged people we are, don't know. We've been masked from it. So we get glimpses of the horror, but we haven't had to really sit in it. And so reframe the sorrow that you've been called to step into, and stop feeling sorry for it, and own it, and really just sit in the vibration of that frequency of the sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, whatever you've sustained. Most of you in this room have sustained all three in some version. And so just sit with that and really embody that and be like, okay, this is the sensation of the fullness of that darkness. How do I begin the journey into transmuting that into light? And this, I believe, is the newness of where we're at right now. And I think the plant medicine era has helped us move towards this moment where we have to become the human medicine. We are going to become the human medicine now. The plants can show you a moment of ego death, but that doesn't change the behavior of the man who has the ego when the plant medicine wears off. What changes the behavior of the man after the medicine wears off is the human inside of it. We have to ignite the human medicine and start to become the codes of peace and forgiveness for one another. And the only way I know how to do this so far is really tap into the original design that cancer cell somehow remembers, to go into this higher geometry, so that I can carry more light. So that as I'm making the effort to forgive something and take darkness into light, there's actually a place to hold it. And that's our challenge right now, is we can go through these big cathartic events in our life, but we can't actually hold the light because the geometry of our cells hasn't upgraded yet. And that's frustrating when you feel like you've made a big breakthrough and you've really done the work, and then 3 weeks later, you have a family reunion and you're right back in the shit. And you're like, well, God damn it, maybe it didn't even happen. And then we discredit what actually happened was some darkness got converted to light, but we couldn't hold it. And so we can even lose judgment now on the fact that we keep cycling. Well, no wonder we keep having to do the work, because we're not charging the battery, because the battery hasn't held the right formation yet. So that's what these, among many other people around the world doing stuff like this, but we're doing these 7-day immersive experiences now that are, the purpose is to become a somatic receptor for light. And we're doing that through mostly somatic movement, breath, high intensity workouts 3 times a day, and then spinning. And so a lot of spinning, like you will see the whirling dervishes do. So you do ecstatic dance in the morning, and then we go into like a qigong kind of thing where you're learning how to move energy very systematically through the body after you've activated through the ecstatic dance. Move the energy, tune the energy, and then you go into theta wave meditation with sound bath, and you allow the sound to upgrade the water crystal. This is called cymatics. And so as these bowls start to tone here, our effort is to upregulate the complexity of geometry inside of the water. You've probably seen cymatics on Instagram where they have like sand on top of the drum head, and then they play a tone and the sand immediately self-organizes in these spectacular mandalas. that's sacred geometry coming through tone. And so why don't you go ahead and start toning us in here. And so as you hear this, your cells all start vibrating. It has to. There's no choice about it. Close your eyes and feel that. All of your cells have self-organized into a very complex geometry in response to the resonance of the bells. And so now we're going to put more light into that sacred geometry with breath. And so we're going to take 10 of the biggest breaths you've taken. A huge breath out first, just blow it all out. All right, we're going to do these quick. Huge breath in. Out. Now rest. You just dumped an amazing amount of light into the crystal of the water. All of your mitochondria just upregulated by 100x the amount of light potential in your body with those breaths. And now we're going to have to follow the path of the cancer cell to find your whole self and complete this journey of the suffering. To find the whole self, like the cancer cell, you have to become detached from the entire human story. And so in your mind's eye, I want you to settle down as a being in the floor of your own pelvis. It feels like a hammock. You're cradled in the floor of your own pelvis, looking upwards. You're looking up through the torso towards the head. Your torso has become a cathedral. We're now at a frequency when we only can see the foundations and walls and glorious ceiling of the cathedral. We can no longer see the organs that laid within. And this crystalline, living bone looks like pearl, where the rainbow surface of the pearl is in motion with the amount of light held within the bone. So marvel at the rainbow of energy pulsing in the bones of the vertebrae that form the foundation of this cathedral. Marvel at the flying buttresses of the ribs that reach skyward and hold the ceiling of the cathedral, which is your breastbone, in its place. Take a breath in and see the cathedral expand. Exhale and see the cathedral consolidate the energy into a smaller space for a higher density of energy. See the bones ripple Dislodge yourself from gravity now and begin to float upwards through the cathedral. Float up through the cathedral towards the head. As the ribs come into close proximity, you might notice that the bone is carrying the written remembrance of everything that's ever happened. The Akashic Records is written in the exquisite crystal structure of bone, which is a very complex form called hydroxyapatite. It is a complex crystal mineral form that holds information of deep memory. And you rise through the cathedral noting everything that's ever happened in the human story that has shaped the behaviors and genetics of your ancestors and now to you. Flipping the victim-perpetrator and stabilizing it through the savior. And the story is writ again and again of suffering, of war in every generation. Note the story and keep rising. As you rise up through the process, you will see a bright light at the base of the skull. It is a crystal that we refer to as the pineal gland. It looks like a small pine cone, but it is literally Lemurian crystal. It is a fine-cut crystal. And it is lit by a beam of light energy that is coming emitted down from above. And it is projecting that thin beam of information down into the floor of your pelvis, which then, like a radar dish, projects it into a cylinder of information by which you would self-organize every cell of your body over and over again. The template by which you knit yourself together in your mother's womb, and the same template by which you continue to reorganize every millionth of a second the material physics of a human body, is held in this beam of light that hits the pineal gland and projects into the whole system. And so keep rising until you're ready to enter the pineal gland itself. You're going to hear a high-pitched noise, high frequencies. A trillion rainbows hitting the walls of the inner crystal of the pineal gland. There's so much information streaming in this space that it overwhelms anything that it would be called a human sense. This is the frequencies of all of the information by which you have held yourself in identity before there was a body and after there is a body. This is the information of you, the whole story, the original story before human. And so rise up this beam of light as you exit the top of the pineal gland. Follow the beam of light up out of the top of the head. Keep rising, and about 1 to 2 meters above you is an energy field that is extremely stable, unaffected by human experience or emotions or stories. It is a sacred geometry that is spinning there, holding all of its unique identity and information within the spin of a complex geometry that is unique to you. In spirit world, we call this a soul. In biophysics, we call it a double toroidal field. This is the information that quantum entangled with an egg that was fertilized in your mother's belly. But that moment of conception, where you were conceived, was different than the moment of fertilization. A sperm enters an egg often. An embryo that results from that infrequently. An in vitro fertilization where we take the sperm and push it into the egg, making sure that fertility is there, making sure the egg is fertile. At that moment, there's an explosion of light that happens. It's called the zinc flash. It's generated by 600,000, more than 500,000 mitochondria crammed in that egg. An average human cell has 200 mitochondria. The egg is endowed with 600,000 mitochondria ready to generate this bolt of lightning. If that bolt of lightning is bright enough, it will entangle with this space that we are now in, the soul. A complex geometry that's been spinning as a fractal of source itself since the beginning of time can quantum entangle with that light flash and imprint it with its own identity. Only 30% of eggs in vitro fertilization that are fertilized will actually move to become an embryo. The other 70% did not quantum entangle successfully. There was no identity, and so the cell simply dissolves after fertility, after fertilization. This information that you're spinning in right now is what you quantum entangled with to begin the journey in knitting together a three-dimensional body by the template of information that holds the identity of you since the beginning of time. Float here in this information. This is the original design. If this is captured in a cell that has enough light and sound within it that it would hold the possibility of 12-stranded DNA, then 12-stranded DNA will occur. Because the DNA in its shape is not determined by the amino acids or nucleotides. It's determined by the water crystal. So let this sound penetrate your body, be outside of the human story long enough to remember what it feels like to be you, before body, after body, connected to all things, all time, connected to the knowledge field, knowing absolutely everything that's ever existed. This is your human medicine. This is the memory of all of the original design. Not the original design of you in your mother's womb, the original design of the original womb, the earth itself, and its design within a species that now holds more biodiversity than any other niche within its ecosystems. This is the original design that nature intended for a species that could hold everything that ever happened on the planet. You are the biologic and biophysical expression and memory of the planet in human form. So now, as the embodied information, you can become the human medicine to your own body. And in the frequencies you will resonate in, you will transmit this to everybody around you, just as the bacteria will pass their new genetics to the next. So become whole. Bring this information down into your body. Ride the light wave, that thin beam of light between your soul and the body below. Ride that slowly down towards the body again. And then stop and pause above your head and place energetically your divine hand on the top of your own head. Gently Open your heart. Open the soul heart on this being below you and pour out a wave of forgiveness through the whole body below you. Show that being how forgiven it is for all of the perpetration of its emotional weapons, its mental weapons that have been used against others, and most viciously towards itself and towards its own soul, towards its own identity. Forgive yourself for all that you have done to hurt yourself. I am so grateful that you've been willing to step into such darkness. I'm so grateful that you allowed me to participate in this glorious human journey of embodiment of sorrow, suffering, so that I as a soul can play the most important thing I've ever played, which is the power of forgiveness that is only possible in a human heart that has suffered through its belief that it is separate from God, separate from Source, separate from its planet, separate from its own family, separate ultimately from itself. The pain of that. Thank you for agreeing to suffer in loneliness, in exhaustion. I am so sorry for all the pain you've had, but I am so grateful you've been willing to take it on, because I can see that the cosmos hangs in the balance between now and your moment of forgiveness. Lift your hand. Witness the being that sits or lies on the mat now. Look at how exhausted the heart space is for all that it has felt, all of the love it's tried to transmit and seen it fail, all the love it's trying to win and lost, the heartbreak and exhaustion of the heart space. Look at the mind and its tortured paths of cognitive dissonance as it holds on to completely oppositional beliefs that you know are wrong, but you continue to cling to, not being given another option. Wonder at the exhaustion of the mind and the heart of a human. Wonder at the exhaustion caused by this original wound of abandonment. Pour your grace, forgiveness, healing into yourself. Feel what that feels like as you pour the medicine into your own body, into cells that are now lit up and vibrating in a more complex geometry than you walked in with. Hold this geometry now by reintroducing these water crystals within you now to the original design, outside of the human story and its judgments. Just the original math. Just the original math and everything that it held. Pour it into your body and feel everything upgrading. Take a deeper breath in, body, and breathe in the medicine I pour into you. Breathe it in. Expand the body. And exhale. Let all of the sorrow turn to smoke as it's transmuted into light within the body. Take another deep breath in for more light. And breathe out the smoke. Take another deep breath in And this time, blow on the coals within your own belly, so light the fire brighter. Blow on the coals. That felt good. I felt the belly get hotter, so go ahead and take another breath and breathe into the coals again. And let the smoke rise as you transmute the sorrow that you've agreed to embody, to fully own the perpetrator within you, fully own how angry you've been at the people and industries and human behaviors. Own all of that anger. Own your sense of discontent, your frustration. Feel it all. Your anger, righteous anger, towards those that would disrespect nature so severely, towards yourself for not being able to change it. Feel it all, and now let the smoke rise. Transmute it. Take a deep breath in and breathe out the smoke. Pour some more medicine into the body and just refresh it. Refresh every cell with the memory of the original design of the 12-stranded DNA pulsing in the beautiful braid of 4-stranded DNA. Exquisite braid of 3 quadra-helixes. Wonder at the light within yourself. As you look down on a body that is glowing with beauty, glowing with light force, life force. And in this fully embodied state of your original design, of your soul, your original unchanging, unflappable, unperturbable, unstainable self, re-enter the body through the head. Gently reintroduce yourself to a human body that thought itself disconnected from God, from source, from you. Thought itself lost and alone. Re-enter it with the good news that you were always whole, that you were always complete in your design. You never lacked anything. Therefore, you are stable for all times as a chronic position, as a permanent identity. Always whole, always have been. Feel it as you reintroduce it to your chest, to your throat, and open it all up. There's no more anger left to explore. Just stepping back into the exhaustion of the human body that's now upgraded with a new identity through a new idea of what it could be. By actually realizing that the sorrow and the suffering, the abuses you've handled are exactly what you came to embody. Stop having judgment on those that have inflicted it and embody it. Say thank you to all of the perpetrators in your life. Say thank you for maximizing your potential to donate light to a universe ready to upgrade. Thank you for trusting that my soul was capable of holding the pain long enough to contribute to this great moment in which Gaia will upgrade. In a universe that's upgrading, I will contribute a little bit of light to the sorrow and pain that you, all of you perpetrators, have given me to hold. I now take the opportunity to step into my power. I take all of the power out that I gave to all of you that you would perpetrate recollect all of my power for the purpose of transmutation of that horror into some light to contribute to this great event. I am. Feel it in your belly as you enter the space again. Fully embodied, feel the belly unwind. All of the tension you've been carrying there. Your colon is the most diverse ecosystem on Earth. Settle into that soil right now. Feel what it feels like for a soul to be in soil. The identity that's been there forever becomes finite so that it can grow as a seed within a mother's womb to become you. And it feels so good to be finite because it can touch the face of a lover. It can taste the cup of coffee. It can breathe in the morning air after rain. It is glorious to be in a finite body as an infinite soul. And how great will that body become when you let go of the human journey that stemmed from the sorrow you were willing to embody and accept that it was your birthright to suffer everything you've suffered, and now burn it in the fire of you and the transmutation power of the human heart through the laws of gravity that is forgiveness, and bring more light into this universe. Move your toes. Feel what it feels like to remember what your feet are and why they were made to walk on the earth, so that they might find more sorrow to witness, so they may see the devastation of a war machine perfected over thousands of years, so that we would witness the horrors of the destruction of ecology in the name of energy, in the name of oil, in the name of food. We would poison her, we would suck her dry, and she would turn that through her transmutive heart, a mother that always loves her children beyond all measure. And you are unconditionally loved by a planet that will now transmute the darkness you've meted out on her through the light and intelligence that she now holds. She has never allowed an injury to occur to herself or any other that didn't already have an antidote. She has never allowed an injury to occur unless there would be light born on the other side of it. Because we live in a universe that is in an ascension pattern. There is more physical form now than at the beginning. There is more biodiversity and more beauty now than even 1 million years ago, let alone 15 billion. We live in a centropic universe, meaning that form is coming out of chaos. Order is self-assembling from chaos. You live in a centropic universe, therefore the mother is always conspiring for more light, more intelligence, more diversity, more beauty. So there's nothing to fear. There's no guilt to be felt anymore. Let's genetically modify ourselves today into a space where there is no fear, guilt, or shame. I am. Take a deep breath in your new body. Now with this new body,